Hi RT, this is Michael from Better TOEFL Scores and OnlineTOEFLCourse.com. In the email you said, "Good morning, thank you for the feedback. I apologize for not sending my answers in the last few days. I was on a trip with some native speakers and I didn't have a chance to study. However," now I'm going to suggest that you put a semicolon here, because you have two different independent clauses, and however is a transition word, not a subordinated conjunction. So you don't want to try to connect that to the previous sentence with a comma. So a semicolon or a period will work better. You said, "However, I spent hours speaking with native speakers. Kindly find my answer for TPO 49 question 4. What you did is more important than studying with me. No joke. You spent hours and hours talking with native speakers. That is the best possible thing you can be doing right now, right? That's it. That's going to help you with your speaking fluency more than anything you're doing with me right now. So keep doing that. Okay, let's listen to your practice test. See how you did on
The
this one.
professor in the lecture mentions two disadvantages of living in groups for animals,
Okay.
which are to be more visible to predator and caring for the young. To begin with, the professor explains the first disadvantage by giving an example of the sardine that live in groups and can be easily detected by sharks, unlike the individual fish, which can be detected easily. That's why living in groups makes animals more vulnerable to be attacked. Second, caring for the young is very challenging. The speaker gives an example of the bats that live in millions inside the caves. Therefore, it's very difficult for the mother bat to find her own young when she comes back to feed them. That's why the mother bat may feed other babies and her own youngs don't get fed.
Huh. So these are two disadvantages, right? Let me listen to it
The
again one more
professor in the
time.
lecture mentions two disadvantages of living in groups for animals,
Okay.
which are to be more visible to predator and caring for the young. To begin with, the professor explains the first disadvantage
No, it's the first disadvantage there, not advantage.
by giving an example of the sardine that live in groups and can be easily detected by sharks, unlike
You can put that they live in groups, if you want to use a noun clause there, that they live in groups, that sardines live in groups makes them more vulnerable to sharks because they're easily detected because of the group.
the individual fish,
So you had a little bit of trouble, I think, with your grammar explaining
which
that
can be
idea.
detected easily. That's why living in groups makes animals more vulnerable to be attacked.
So that's why, according to the professor, living in groups makes these animals more vulnerable to attack from predators, or more vulnerable from predatorial attack.
Second, caring for the young is very challenging.
How about caring for the young can also be a disadvantage to certain animals?
The speaker gives an example of the bats that live in millions inside the caves. Therefore, it's very difficult for the mother bat to find her own young when she comes back to feed them.
How about the professor
That's why the
discusses the challenging
mother
situation of bats who may sometimes have difficulty finding their young once they get food and return back to the colony? I would maybe
bat may
phrase
feed
it
other
like that.
babies and her own youngs don't get fed.
So I think part of it with this one is, as you're explaining these two disadvantages, you need to make it clear that these are disadvantages. These are two disadvantages that animals may have, according to the lecture. And just tie that back to what you said in the beginning, the two disadvantages. I think that would help. So I think you had some minor problems with your delivery, maybe a few minor problems with pacing, with intonation. And I think sometimes your word choice wasn't the best, and you needed to tie the examples, the two disadvantages, you needed to better tie that back to the introduction of your response. I think you would have had a little bit more coherent organization of ideas. I'm going to give you maybe 23 to 25 points on this practice test.